We have some breaking news out of New York. Steve Bannon, a former top political advisor to President Trump, is in federal custody. Justice Department prosecutors are charging Bannon and 3 others with defrauding hundreds of thousands of donors in an effort to raise $25 million for the president's border wall with Mexico. The acting U.S. attorney said Bannon did so under the false pretense the money would be spent on construction. Bannon is the 6th close associate of Mr. Trump to be indicted by his Justice Department. Here's how the president reacted to the indictment.
I feel very badly. I haven't been dealing with him for a long period of time, as most of the people in this room know. He was involved in our campaign. He worked for Goldman Sachs. He worked for a lot of companies, but he was involved likewise in our campaign and for a small part of the administration very early on. I haven't been dealing with him at all. I know nothing about the project other than I didn't like, when I read about it, I didn't like it. I said, this is for government, this isn't for private people.
CBS News legal analyst Kim Wehle joins me now from Chevy Chase, Maryland. She's also a constitutional law professor at the University of Baltimore. Welcome, Kim. Great to have you with us. Can you tell us more about the severity of these charges Bannon is facing? What kind of prison time might he receive if convicted?
Well, he has been charged with 2 crimes: conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Each of those carries 20 years in prison, and it would be up to the judge at sentencing to decide whether those would run consecutively or concurrently, assuming he would get the maximum, which he probably would not. But the maximum prison term, if the judge were to decide that they are stackable, would be 40 years in prison.
Pretty significant there. Kim, there were concerns, or there continue to be concerns, but they stemmed from 2 months ago when Attorney General William Barr fired then U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Geoffrey Berman, for allegedly investigating close associates of the president, sort of raising these concerns about the independence of the Justice Department. What does today's indictment tell you, if anything, about those worries?
Well, Mr. Berman sort of brokered, it appeared to be a deal to actually leave in exchange for having his deputy step into his shoes. As viewers might recall, the idea was to actually put someone in that position. Mr. Barr was going to put someone in that position who had no expertise or experience whatsoever with criminal law. And so what the good news, I think, in this moment is it's showing the Justice Department is functioning. Mr. Barr has taken many dramatic steps to politicize the Justice Department and to undermine his own credibility as someone who is representing the president personally and not the American people. But we've seen time and again the Southern District of New York moving forward as independent law enforcement officials and prosecutors. And I think this is a good day for America to see that even the president's close associates aren't, at least when it comes to the criminal justice system, going to evade the process. Of course, Mr. Trump could again, pardon Mr. Bannon so long as he's still a sitting president. But these, to your earlier question, I mean, these aren't complicated charges. This is pretending, basically lying to people to get money and then using the money personally. That's pretty straightforward, and it can be proven based on documents. We don't need to hear testimony, believe one person over another. As I tell my law students, documents don't lie, they don't die, and they don't misremember. And so my guess is they have a pretty strong case against Mr. Bannon and his alleged co-conspirators.
And Kim, the president faced his own legal defeat today. A federal judge dismissed his lawsuit trying to, again, stop New York prosecutors from seeking his tax returns. His legal team is taking the decision to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. Why did the judge reject the president's argument, and what next steps is he likely to take?
So the judge essentially said, listen, this is a rehash of what you already argued and lost ultimately in the United States Supreme Court. Remember, these documents that are being sought, they're not from Mr. Trump personally. They're not from the White House. They have nothing to do with executive privilege or something within the ambit of the president's, top secret communications with his advisors. These are documents from his private banks and his accountant. And essentially, the Supreme Court rejected his breathtaking claim that anything touching a president at any point in his life is immune from process. And the judge here said, listen, I've heard all this. You're just rehashing it. And essentially they came in and said, well, this is overbroad. This is in bad faith. Kind of the kinds of arguments any regular person would make pursuant to a regular grand jury subpoena. And essentially the judge said, you're claiming again you're special. You're not special for purposes of criminal process in this moment, and so you lose. And my guess is the Second Circuit, given the Supreme Court precedent, is going to have to basically affirm the lower court, will affirm the lower court, and ultimately the grand jury will get these documents. We don't know, of course, whether it will be before the election, and because grand jury materials are secret, the public is not going to know about them anyway unless they show up in a later indictment and criminal trial of someone implicated in this investigation.
Kim Wehle, thank you so much. So great to talk to you again. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.